hey, you talked to us before about brand building, and I've taken that to heart. So, if building your own brand basically revolves around you watching your own videos, Ryan, and letting them ads play, lovely darts, son. Whatever you need to do, by any means necessary.
I don't know how much you guys want to feed the trolls, but I got to do that seminar in West Virginia with Barry Bourne. If you want to talk about that,
I haven't yet seen it. Please do. Please tell me everything. How is he in real life? He's
insane. He's totally insane. He brought a machete into like a diner and they kicked him out. Like he got kicked out of his hotel like after checking in for an hour. He's crazy.
Just doing a little bit of stretching. I like how that I missed out the fact that look at that. Look, investment. That is. That's an investment in your future. Investment.
Had that for like a week.
Just before we start things off, learning from prior experience. Learning from prior experience with Ryan. How was my sound, incidentally, guys?
Fine.
Can you hear me okay? Everything good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ray, how's... Just give us a little bit of a check. Ray, sound check. 1, 2, 3.
No interference, no back noise.
Wonderful. Let's, now, there's two topics I want to discuss. First of all, Paul Linn being the nicest guy in the world, but a bastard, because... Five people sent me in things saying, basically, Paul Linn is a bastard because he keeps having things on his desk and he leaves his mobile phone on.
My phone is way over here, and like, I'm not gonna explain why I have to have it on.
This is my favourite one.
I must.
My favourite one, which I just cracked back on. Guys.
I thought this is our show.
Get this. This is amazing here. This is from Marcus R. Guys, great show as always, but for Christ's sake, why does Paul Linn always have so much background noise? I have never heard anybody on earth make as much noise with ice cubes in a cup as Paul Linn is apparently able to do. I wouldn't mind, but it's every week. Paul Linn is to making noise with ice cubes in a cup what Devon Larratt is to eating on podcasts. I love that.
I'll take that. Hey, gentlemen, I consume 1.5 gallons of water every day. And the 1 hour increments that this show takes place, I am not going to stop drinking water. So if the ice cubes bother you, I'm not going to drink warm water. I apologize. The ice cubes will remain.
The second massive onslaught that we've had this week is around Super Ryan and Ryan's lack of microphone. And this pissed off most of the entire world. This is one of your top. I think this is one of your top rants ever, mate. Isn't it?
I know. If my audio quality was a stock market share, we've just had a big drop. We're in trouble.
I think you've invested so much money in technical stuff, and it's a different microphone each week.
And if you'll notice, ladies and gentlemen, the headset that Ryan's got on is actually the free ones that you get when you fly across America. There are films. It's a $5 a film. And Ryan's like, I'm not spending a $5, but I'll have the headphones.
There is going to come a time in an episode not too far away, maybe episode 50. Is this episode 50?
50.
Hang on a second. This is episode 50.
Yeah, I know. We're wheeling Danny Tesh out in about 10 minutes. I haven't introduced the show. You've killed the magic there, Ryan. I'm not going to lie.
Geez,
that big intro. that I've prepped.
Yeah. No.
But it's all gone now. I can't now wade into my technical director and say, let me inform you that it is in fact show 5-0. Anyway, that's the reality of live TV, ladies and gentlemen, especially when you're working with children, animals, or Ryan.
Yeah, I got ice in my glass. Watch out.
Yeah, give it a wobble. Mate.
Hold on now, Ryan. You can't take any more heat. Let me take the ice cube heat.
Just show him how it's done, Paul. Make a bit of noise, son.
This is how you do it right here. You drink this, say 40 ounces. I got to drink like 4 of these a day.
Yep, you've got to have it. Number one, you've got to have it. This is our specialist instruction course on how to make as much noise as possible with ice cubes in a drink.
There you go.
What you need first is a very large vessel.
Preferably made out of metal. Made out of metal. But I'll take the comparison to Devin any day of the week. That's a compliment.
And the new website, collaboration between Ray and Paul, will be launching next week. Voice of making a lot of noise with ice. Going to be out. Now, I think we should probably start the show, lads. What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do this thing. Okay.
Yeah, why?
Here we go, Ryan. This is the kind of effort we go to when we're going to launch show 50, so get everything standby. First of all, you need to have your glasses on. If anybody's got that, obviously, Ray, you've gone with the razors this week. Paul, you can't do that, mate. You're the voice of reason. There's no comedy in you, son. It's about nice. That's your angle on this show.
Too nice for comedy.
Yeah, too nice for comedy. You also got to have your props ready, ladies and gentlemen. And while we're talking props, is that in view, out of view? Is that disappearing?
Yeah,
there you go. Lynn's got it. Okay.
Have some sausage left.
Always gets back. The sausages can be used for all kinds of things. There you go.
Damn right they are.
All got it. Right. Are we ready? I think it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fix, mother fluffers. Neil Pickup here with you in the house, and as usual, I'm joined by our 3 resident co-hosts. Yes, and it's a momentous occasion as we enter February 2021. We have reached a milestone, gentlemen, yes. And for those of you who were watching the intro a moment ago, you'll have it ruined by the fingers. But it's now on 50.
Hey! Show 50.
If you're wondering, we were going to do something very special for the show, and we've done that. If you see anything purple walking across the back of Ray's background there, it might fade in and out a little bit, but you think, well, that purple thing, yes, Ray sprayed the cat. So, for show 50, the cat has been, what's the cat's name, Ray?
Roo.
Roo is purple. Sprayed it. That's how we roll. Got to do something exciting. Now then, we're going to start things off with a very, very difficult topic, which is most of our difficult topics tend to be, is Ryan's fault. Let me refer you to one of the number of questions that we've had in relating, well, questions and comments really, relating to this specific thing. And I'll group them together a little bit here, but basically the nature of this is, guys, Ryan put out a video this week about the prominence of leagues and the necessity for leagues in the sport of arm wrestling. Can you guys discuss as part of the fix and let us know your opinions on the situation with Lavan and Michael and what this means for arm wrestling going forward? Are we looking at a revolution and a new way of doing things? I'd like to start this off by just saying, you bastard. Ryan. And then we'll go forward. Now, Ryan, I think it only fitting that as you started this topic, son, you should pick it up and run with it, and then we can sort of all come in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were all obviously aware of the Michael and Lavan factor, i.e. they were in the same location in Dubai. And clearly from Michael's perspective, there was a lot of hype coming from his channel talking about the potential match. And a lot of the fans in the arm wrestling world equally as keen to see it. A lot of polls going around. But then we saw Igor Mazarenko make a couple of posts. One, he kind of made a personal statement, and then the PAL put out an official statement. And And there were a couple of things that in there that were kind of a little bit talking downward on Michael, talking downward on the WAL from the PAL's perspective, saying comments like champions only pull champions and things like that were put out that kind of got a lot of people offside. I was one of the people that I thought, no, that's not a good move, Igor. I think that what I saw was just kind of a stone wall put up by Igor saying, I'm not going to permit Lavan to pull Michael under any other circumstances than in the top 8. And for that to happen, we would require Michael to, first of all, qualify through the Zloty for the top 8 and then have his shot. And he kind of talked about Michael as though he wasn't worthy, given his credentials in the WAL. So my video that I put out was largely saying, hey, I think it was a bit rough to go with that approach. Clearly, Michael is the caliber to be worthy of a shot. I mean, we all know that here on the show. He's beaten Dave Shape, he's beaten Jerry Catterett, beaten Devin Larratt. He's beaten no short list of people there. So that was answering that. But for me, when I touched on the leagues and the contracts, my call for the leagues was to use this period of time that we're in through to COVID, and that is subsequently going to drag on for who knows how long, to look to evolve and to work together in conjunction with each other and the athletes to come up with micro events as opposed to the big calendar events. And a micro event I would define as something that is a much more lower budget. It's not surrounded by a big tournament. It's just down to the two people in a small production room, not so much an audience, but rather than just a digital pay-per-view. And I put the call out that I would love to see PAL, WAL work together to be able to produce something. On the topic of where the PAL and WAL should remain, absolutely. The two most credible professional organizations that make us as athletes look like professional athletes. So there's no way we want it to revert to garage super matches, just to clarify that for the fans. But I think, personally, I'd love to see PAL and WAL work together to give us something during this time.
Now, one of the points that was raised on there within the questions was that you called for contracts to be abolished, or contracts to go. Is there any additional clarification that you need to put through on that, mate?
The clarification on that was long-term contracts. Like, I know 5-year contracts that have been things of the past. I'm not privy to how long PAL contracts are, but I know that Michael was on a 5-year contract with the WAL and has felt really sort of hamstrung by that. I would love to see event-based contracts where we agree on a fight, we agree on a match and a moment, and for all intents and purposes, that is a contract deal between athletes and organizations. But I don't like the idea of an athlete being locked into a league for more than a year. Like, to me, a year maximum. And the reason being, like, we're seeing that right now. Lavan effectively can't pull Michael because he's in a long-term contract. And without that contract being evolved, we're just not going to see the match. So I'd love to see the PAL, WAL look to have much shorter-term contracts and you work with a pay-per-view scenario where they're sharing with the athletes. Again, much like when you look at fighters like Conor McGregor and even Eddie Hall and Hafthor Bjornsson putting together contracts for one event. I think I'd love to see it go that way.
Okay. I mean, is it in some ways the nature of the beast, this, guys? We see it in so many other sports, particularly combat sports, but in a lot of other sports. And if you boil it down to scenarios with leagues all over the world, pretty much in any organisation or any professional sport, if you dig deep enough, you will find that that athlete has got commitments to the league that they are competing within, or the club that they're competing for, whoever it may be. If you look at sort of a professional footballer, American football, soccer, doesn't matter which, they will be competing for a team. They can't then go, you know what, this week I fancy going playing for this other team. It's just not how it works for so many reasons. And I think it's important to note, before everybody gets too carried away, that the commercial reality of life for the arm wrestler and the league, that's there for their protection as well, the athlete's protection as well as the league's protection. And the other question I wanted to throw out there as well was, what if the athlete wants to be in that contract? You know, that's the other thing we need to consider. Because the whole situation with Lavan and Michael, it was almost like that issue was gonna present itself. It was always going to be an issue. But I think one of the important things is, within a situation where you've got a contract, there are elements within that contract that can be specific to the athlete and criteria which can be specific to the scenario. And force majeure is the kind of thing I'm talking about here. Maybe there was nothing in there which talked about global pandemic, but I'll bet going forward on things like this, there are a lot of contracts which will have some kind of specific mention of global pandemic, or in the event of there being a situation where you cannot ensure that I am gainfully employed as an arm wrestler, or you restrict the ability for me to make money. Because, you know, now this is an unusual one, because I want to play devil's advocate here a bit just to get people thinking. But in many parts of the world, the view and the perception on this is going to be biased by what's actually happened in your region. So, for example, if you're living in the Isle of Man right now and you're COVID clear, you're not too concerned about it. You're like, well, it's all the fuss about. Go down, farmers, no problem. But if you're living in an area like, for example, central London, that ain't the case. You're on house arrest effectively, apart from being able to come out and do a little bit of exercise each day, because the country is in lockdown. So if you were to try and organise an event, any league that was based there was trying to organise an event, you couldn't do, because it's literally illegal to do so. So the league is also restricted in earning any money. So it's what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is it's definitely not black and white. There's a lot of grey. There's a lot of grey.
I think before I hand over to you guys, I think that one of the biggest things that I wanted to encourage the leagues to evolve to was the YouTube revolution. There is if we just look at earnings potential on YouTube's and we look at what promoters are usually generating through their own independent pay-per-views and third-party contracts, the thing that's shifting at the moment is athletes are starting to earn more money independently than they've ever earned before through YouTube. And leagues have to be aware of that. They have to be prepared to accommodate that, because if they don't, athletes will just jump ship.
I think an important distinction to make at that point, right? True statement, but important distinction to make at that point, critically important, is when you say athletes, we're talking about 2, 3 right now. No more. You've got Devon Larratt, who has got an entity on social media. You know, he's become an entity on social media. Michael Todd is up to 40,000 subscribers, so he's becoming an entity on social media.
He's making all right money already. He is.
Yeah, roll on to the guy. But what I'm saying, mate, is when you say athletes, we're talking about a handful of athletes. So to be fair to leagues and organisations, I also think they would need to have a little bit of time to evolve to this. And I don't think it's beyond the wit of man for them to do that. For example, if you took Devon Larratt or Michael Todd, if they go to approach a league or speak to a major promotion, whoever that is, a new one, or one they're contracted to, doesn't matter which, there's going to be a negotiation process. And that negotiation process involves various criteria, one of the key ones for which is, what do you bring to the promotion? Now, in the past, it's a fair statement to say that if I walked into PAL as any arm wrestler in the world at a period of time, Levan Seganashvili 2 years ago walks into PAL's offices and they say to Igor Mazarenko, right, want to do this contract. And Igor says, well, you're going to have the ability to earn 50 grand, and he spells it out. And what do you bring, Levan? And Levan can be like, well, I'm strong as fuck. And that's about it. There wasn't anything else coming back for the league. So what I'm getting at is, it's not casting aspersions at any arm wrestlers. It's the reality. The fact of the matter was the expense in putting on events, in all the disparate elements that go up to make the event, are from the promotion, not from the athlete. The athlete's a property, you know. Now, I think it's fair to say that going forward, in some instances, just in some instances, there is going to be a shift there where someone like Devon could walk in, or let's say Michael, in a year, goes to discuss things with WAL. He's in a very different place. Suddenly, he's got his own brand and identity, which then could matter to World Arm Wrestling League or PAL or whoever the hell he's dealing with. So there's a different negotiation there. And I think that same point under different guises has come up a lot of times. When you're saying, athletes earn more money. 90% of athletes, if they went on YouTube for a year, won't earn a goddamn thing because they've got no following and no brand. And I don't want to sort of lead a lot of athletes down the garden path and say that is the case, because it kind of isn't. You have to establish the brand first. Even professional strongman, which is in a different place to arm wrestling right now in terms of the crowds it can draw. You've only got maybe 10 athletes in the world that have that significant social media pull and draw. And often it's based around character rather than... I mean, let's be honest, before Lavan went to Dubai, the overriding thing you get back is, oh, I never knew Lavan was like that. I never knew Lavan was like that. Yet how long has he been with PAL? Nobody knew anything about it. Oh, I didn't know he was like that. I didn't know his personality. Because you're perceived in a certain way. And he's been perceived as this giant ogreish individual. When in actuality, he's a lovely... Yeah, he is a teddy bear. He's a lovely, lovely guy. Very nice, very endearing, very jolly giant, isn't he? And that's an angle for him. In fact, it might be in fact, I'm going to say it is a much more powerful angle for his development and for the draw of the athlete to portray him in that way. We got this guy who's a absolute lovely person. When he gets to an arm wrestling table, he's a friggin' machine. The flick of the switch.
That's a really good point. I think that is misconstrued inside the arm wrestling community a lot, and we've talked about it before. Guys are like at that. Guys who are like at that elite level, and how like their friend group can't understand why they haven't gotten a shot yet. A lot of times it revolves around their marketability or their willingness or lack thereof to put their own personality out there to go along with the fact that they can't arm wrestle. And I think that's such a valid point. And I think it's also a contrasting point between WAL and PAL. And I think Igor made it really obvious, the PAL stance as far as arm wrestling. Like, we are here for the competition aspect, and that is it. That's really what I took from his first response. Like, we're not purists. We're not here to create cool guys. We're here to create what is to portray the best arm wrestling, period. We don't care if it's, a bunch of matches that foul out. We don't care at all. We just want to know who's the best. But then the inverse of that was, the implication was that the WAL was just here for the opposite, and there was going to be absolutely no arm wrestling substance. And that I think, the way it came off in the translation, whether that was his intent or not, but it kind of seemed like an attack on the WAL and made the WAL look to be like a joke. Whereas in the heavyweights, super heavyweights especially, I think that couldn't be any more opposite than the truth. Like, there are four of possibly the best in the world in the WAL and the super heavyweights. And I think that kind of triggered a lot of people, whether they're saying it or not. But I know that, like, when I read it, I had to step back a little bit and consider the translation.
I mean, exactly. That's the point, isn't it, mate? I mean, a lot of it is around the translation because, I think from the West there's a perception as well that, the Eastern Europeans are this hard-faced, stone-type personas, which in my personal experience just doesn't correlate at all. When I've been over to Ukraine, when I've been over to Russia competing, to meeting guys over there, many of whom have become my friends, it's just not the case. I'm in Lavan. I rest my case. Lavan. La Latin. Oh my God. La Latin's a great bloke. He is a great guy. Absolutely fantastic bloke. Lovely personality. Mega. But the fact that you don't understand them, and you don't understand the text, there's an enormous amount open to interpretation there, isn't there? Because the written word is very different from the spoken word.
Ray, do you speak Russian? You
Yes.
do, don't you?
Yeah.
What? So you reading it from the Russian interpretation, did it look any different?
Oh no, I will check a little bit later. But I talked with Igor, I think a day later. After that, he called me and he wanted to get my thoughts on the subject, and so we talked a little bit. And
Igor's like, Ray, get on the fix, mother.
Mm-hmm.
He was just calling me, and I'm like, what did I do? But I'm like, okay. So we talked a little bit, and what the statement he made, I believe he lives by that, because he said like, WL is more entertainment, this is more of sport, and I can even make a good case for that. If you look back, Engin made a post a lot of times where he said, well, this match won't go into Armwrestling rankings because there were 100,000 elbow falls. That's not Armwrestling.
Well, so, wait a minute. Counterpoint to that straight off the bat. Straight off the bat before we get going. Okay. I personally believe that is a very dangerous ground to go down, to start casting aspersions one way or the other. For a PAL to start devaluing, or Engin, and I'll say this to Engin when I get him on the show, for him to start making that kind of aspersion is utterly ridiculous. Yeah, utterly ridiculous. Either way, because what about when the referee stops the match like that? And both arm wrestlers are stood at the table going, there was no infringement whatsoever, okay, which we've seen a lot. Does that go into the rankings? You know? I mean, you got to be careful what doesn't do it. If you're the clinical lab coat arm wrestler where everything counts, then it goes into the rankings, end of, done. Right. Either it's that or not. There's not grey area, and then it's,
okay, I can agree to that, but like, okay, WL has made huge changes in past 2-3 years on regards to, watching the first matches, it was chaos all over it. It was just, so compared it to PAL, where you have cameras looking at the elbows and the smallest elbow fall is called. So this is their perception of sport and their perception of entertainment. That's the difference. And again, like, we talked with Igor. I said like about Michael, and he said he invited Michael, but Michael was under WL. He couldn't come, and he said the idea of all of this, why is this problem happening? Is Igor's trying to make UFC. Pretty simple. He's trying to make UFC, and if you have someone just come in without going through that, that qualification tournament, everything else, it messes up all the system. And right now, and we talked about it, I said, like, you would make a lot of money with this. And he said, this is not about money. Right now, this is not about money.
Can you just clarify the point, what you mean with when he said Igor's trying to make UFC? Because for me, UFC is very much entertainment based. For God's sake, UFC the other
but still, there's hierarchy. There's hierarchy.
Bad motherfucker title. How is that professional sport? Yeah, you know what I mean? That's like we're going to make a title. It's called BMF, the bad motherfucker. That's
I can't help but feel like Igor is saying that's what he wants to do, but he really just wants the monopoly.
Oh my God, Michael look at that.
And he's really just trying to
Michael just lost some brownie points there because Ryan has sailed into the top spot. We're frozen. What the?
Yeah. But
man.
We talked about it and
frozen.
We're
good. You're not frozen.
Yeah, I can see everyone.
Did anybody else freeze up there? I froze up like a mother fluffer.
No,
we're good.
Right, okay. Wait a minute. Whoa, sweet child of mine. Clear break point, and I'm going to start the recording again because I don't want to risk that being. It was too also.
It's just something weird going on with your end, but.
She's cold as hell. I don't know what was going on there, but I can see you now. Right, go, Ryan.
All right. So the point that Ray made about Igor and his aspirations to make it a UFC, I think he's using that. That might be the reason he's saying that, but the true reason is he's trying to create a monopoly for his league, and he's trying to strong arm Michael Todd into, if he wants a shot at Lavan, he's got to come join his league. I think he's seeing WAL as a competition, and he's trying to win the fight.
Well, I think I want to make a point when Ray was talking about like the PAL trying to be the UFC. and that you have to come up in the ranks. And I think that there's another aspect to that. And if you look at, like, I love to use certain fighters as a comparison, but Conor McGregor, like, stormed the UFC scene with very little, early, like journeyman style fights. He came in with such charisma that he got a shot very, very quickly and then sustained a high level. And if you look at Conor, like when we talked earlier about like the value added and the differences in contracts per athlete, Conor may not be at the pinnacle right now, but he is still going to be a very highly paid athlete for his ability to promote his charisma outside of the octagon, but in front of the camera. So the valuation of the fighters themselves can be so much different. And like Lavan, just seeing him in Dubai shows that he has more value than just a really strong arm wrestler. I thought his personality really kind of shined through. And I think that there is some to kind of promoting him. He's not just this giant mean looking guy. He's actually a nice guy. And watching him interact with Michael, I think really pushed his stock up. And I think that that's something that's out there for Igor and the PAL really to capitalize on. That could be going on their social media. They could really work him into something next level.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing, sorry, anyway, it was my fault because I interrupted when Ray was talking about his point with Igor. And I want to let Ray freeform on that again and go and get cracked on. Because, sorry, mate, you spoke to Igor and you're up to the point where you were saying that he was trying to make UFC. You could see where he was coming from. So I want to sort of kind of hear your, oh, for fuck's sake. Why is it locked up again?
I'm going to drink my ice water during this break, so.
I'm just waiting for you to come back, lads. Right, okay, you're back. I'll tell you what. Did you hear any of that? Could you hear what I said then?
We got all of it. All of it.
Well, I'll tell you what. If this carries on, I'm going to go out into the night air and shut my penis in a car door. Just to take the pain away. I'll tell you. I'll tell you what, that's driving me insane. Talk about on-air dick punch. Okay. Sorry, Ray. You want to pick up, mate, what the point you were making, Dave?
So the idea behind all this top 8 was to create rosters on each classes. A similar style as UFC, so you would have tournaments and everything else. The plan for 2020 was, as I remember, 105 kilo class for men and maybe something for women, and then next year add 2 classes. But the idea is to build that one like you have 95 or 105 plus, like open, super heavyweights, the Armwrestler there. So you have a brand already made, and you have people watching, you have money flowing in, so you can get more people involved. That was the big idea behind it. And it's still, you want to create that, like, you have to qualify here. Like, everyone qualified. Chafee qualified. Krasimir won left hand and lost to Salive, I guess, right hand. He still qualified. He had to go and qualify and have that match. That's the big idea. I understand the situation. I would love to see that match. I have no problem with that. But when someone is trying to create like a system, and system that everyone knows, so there's no back doors for anyone, no matter how good you are, how big you are. And I believe right now, like we talked about, like everyone making their brands. Right now, it's an option for very few. I guess in 5 years, it will be a different scenery. Because the bigger arm wrestling is, the bigger, like, the top guys will be if they know how to promote themselves. So, like, everyone watches Conor McGregor fights. He's the best attraction in UFC. Because, like, there are as much UFC fans as there are McGregor fans. And maybe more McGregor fans than there are UFC fans. So that's the idea. Right now, we're just limited to how many Devon Larratt fans there are and how many of them want to watch something else. That's not Devon. So, as arm wrestling expands, maybe these champions coming in from different leagues, like maybe Nomad League will skyrocket. And they will start doing contracts with, or something like that. Then they come in. Right now, I just don't see it as an option because they are in a stage of making it. And I'm not mad about that. I want to see the match. I really want to see the match.
My problem with that is that's all well and good, but there is no opportunity for a season right now. There's just the PAL cannot put together a season because of the international travel restraints. So, Igor is electing to have no season at all instead of having some vendettas in the meantime. Yeah. So he has a chance to have an individual vendetta until we get to a point where the world opens up and a season can be certain that we have it on again. Because he's not going to be able to get a top 8 season this year. I'll bet money on that right now that the top 8 season will not happen this year. No way.
Well, I think
international travel is too hard.
It's not just Igor. It's the WAL.
Exactly.
Any one of these leagues could be finding a common ground and a compromise right now. And I know like production value and sponsors are a big deal. I understand the business aspect of it enough to understand why certain things aren't happening. But I can't help but believe what Ryan's saying is there are other options out there. And maybe that slice of the pie isn't quite as big when it comes to business, but at least you're continuing the product. And I think the importance of like continuing that hype train, like there's a lot that could have happened in this year that would have kept, the hype associated around like the top guys in arm wrestling going. And Nomad is such a great example.
Yeah, they capitalized it on it. Yeah. They can't close doors. They already, like today, we'll have Sandy Shedis, Andrei Ciprano, Armwrestling, Božidar, Makaro, and, they're setting up behind closed doors, just camera, no one else, no one's involved, I really would love to see that.
You know what I mean? It's a responsible approach to the pandemic.
There also will be a situation where we need to think about the reality of life. I understand what you're saying there, Ray, in terms of, this is what Igor's trying to do. Great. And let me tell you now, I'm a huge fan of the Professional Arm Wrestling League. I love the PAL. Worked with the PAL a lot, and would always support the PAL. I think they're a very valuable entity in the sport. They do a great deal for arm wrestling on a massive amount of levels. Their equipment's amazing. The promotions they do are extremely professionally run, well produced. They portray the sport in a good way. I can't say enough good about them. What I would say as a counterpoint is, regardless of anybody's objectives and aspirations, there will always be alternative promotions and leagues. There just will.
Yeah.
Now, the reality of the situation is there. If you're trying to get to a scenario where, this is what we want to do. We want to create a roster. We want to create all these things. Of course, every arm wrestling promotion and league will have a similar aspiration. What you're looking at within there is the governance of that. The way that the league is structured and set up is going to appeal to one set of people and less so to another. The rigidity of the structure and the manner in which the promotion is set out for the athletes will appeal to some athletes and not for others. For example, if you're Devon Larratt or Michael Todd walking in there, maybe Travis Bajan or somebody else with a certain set of objectives of your own around your brand, around what you want to retain, what you don't want to retain, that monopolization can be a problem. Because you think, well, no, I want to get the big matches, but I'm not going to be able to set my stall out to pull these set of guys, because from what they're doing, they're happy within this league. They're happy within the PAL. They're happy within Nomad. They're happy within TAL, whatever it may be. So I don't think we can paint this utopia, this picture where, everybody can just pull anybody. I don't think that will ever be the case. I think you'll always have a set of criteria where, without the arm wrestler having enough clout, as they did in Conor McGregor-Mayweather. Conor McGregor and Mayweather were so significant as an entity that they genuinely could step outside of that and offer enough value to the respective people that they work with where, it was viable. They both raised their stock. That stock then comes back into, in Conor's case, the UFC, and a tide comes with it. Now, I think arm wrestling's miles away from that. Absolutely miles away from that. So I think it's very important that there isn't a wave of negativity washing over the PAL, washing over the WAL, and I definitely don't think it's healthy to have the PAL and the WAL knocking lumps out of each other. To be fair to the WAL, not a word of criticism around the PAL. At no point have they criticised anything that's been said or done in that respect. You know, and until I heard Igor say it myself and understood what he said, I wouldn't be reading a lot into what had been said by Igor either, because it's just a written translation. I haven't heard him say it. Obviously, it's different for you, Ray, because you understand what's been said.
I agree with what you're saying there, Neil, but I disagree in a sense in that I think let's say Michael Todd's not making huge amounts of money on his YouTube channel, but let's say he was at 200,000, 300,000 subscribers. I think, well, let's say, heaven forbid, he was at Armwrestling TV level, so he's at the 1 million subscriber level. If Michael was at the 1 million subscriber level, he would have just pulled Lavan anyway. He would have said, who cares, we don't need a league right now, let's just do it right here, I don't care if it's casual, I want to know, you want to know, let's do it, and and they would have made enough money. So they're right now.
Really?
No, yeah, he would have. He would have. Like,
why?
Well, just look at the revenue that a 1 million subscriber YouTube channel is making. It's real. It's way more real than any arm wrestler has seen in the prize money from a league in a year.
So why do Logan Paul and KSI go through promotions then? Because
their sport's big enough that they get paid even more if they go the league route. For us right now, a league.
Yeah, well, Michael would be paid even more if he went the league.
No. But what I'm saying is, right now, if you're Lavan Sanganishvili, you can win $50,000 in the top 8 by winning that, and maybe you get a few more appearance fees along the way. So you might make 70 grand, 80 grand in a year from arm wrestling. If you're Larry Wheels level YouTube channel, you'll make that in a month from good videos. So
no, you're missing my point, Ryan. What I'm saying
now drives only Lamborghinis, so
you could have the endorsement. You could have an endorsement of the match, utilising one or other league, and still retain the rights to the match in many ways.
Yes,
why not?
Yes, but
as long as you, like I said, there's negotiation there, which doesn't yet exist. That's what I'm talking about.
But what I'm saying is, in the current scenario where you've got neither league actually providing with a viable solution, they're not willing to work together, and there's no opportunity to do it under their banner. If that had been the exact case, but Michael had 500,000 subscribers and was going to make $30,000 off the video anyway, he would have just done it. He wouldn't have asked anyone. He would have just said, hey, just like he pulled Devon in the garage, he would have pulled Lavan in the garage, and they would have made $30,000 in revenue from that video.
Well, that's all in it. Whereas if you've got somebody handling all of the other things, the merchandising, the marketing, all the other things, then what you can capitalise on changes dramatically. For example, you talked about Thor Bjornsson and Eddie Hall. Thor Bjornsson and Eddie Hall are both massive on YouTube. Eddie Hall's, 1.6, 1.7 million subs. He didn't just do it on his own YouTube channel. He found a promotion because he wants all the elements that are attached to that, all the other money-making opportunities. He doesn't want all the donkey work. He wants to train for the fucking fight.
Yeah, but the thing is, there is the combined sum of going with the organisation. If it's greater than the combined sum of not going with on the YouTube channel, then yeah, of course you're going to go over here. And for Eddie, it is over here in the organisations. But for arm wrestlers, because arm wrestling isn't a big enough sport yet, that our promoters aren't bringing in enough money to warrant it. And what I'm saying is, YouTube right now for certain athletes is actually way ahead of what the promoters can ever offer.
Because you're going to make money not only for that 1 month, you're going to make money all the time.
I don't see those two elements. The bit that I'm not joining up on you guys is, I don't see those two elements as separate. I see them as joined.
No, the reason I'm saying that they're separate is because Igor just killed the ability for Lavan to pull Michael. They didn't pull on YouTube because they're worried about their contracts. So what I'm saying is, if the money was higher on YouTube, they would have just done it anyway. So I'm saying at the moment they're not joined.
Right now it is where it is, Ryan. But I think what Igor will find and what the WL will find, or any other promotion, there will be a slight changing in terms of how those things are done. I am sure that if you were speaking to someone like Steve Kaplan, who is ultimately a businessman, he would be absolutely aware of the fact that if somebody came to him with enough of a brand that commanded an enormous amount of social media following, that he would be negotiating very differently to if he was speaking to someone who was a relative unknown. Just a completely different set of criteria. Mm. And I don't think he would be under any illusions about that. And I don't think that Igor would be. And if he is, then...
Well, what I'm saying is I think the YouTube channels are evolving so quickly right now that perhaps people like Igor haven't yet realised that is the case. That their athletes
to Igor, how many have, Ryan? How many?
The two in question, Michael and Lavan, those two
Lavan
in question.
Lavan has a lot of social media following. The only two I know of that are big is Devon and Michael.
You can monetize.
But the fact you've got Larry, you've got Larry's channel with 1.5 million subscribers right there. They could have pulled on Larry's channel. They could have put up PAL banners in the background. They could have put WOL banners in the background. They could have pulled on Larry's channel had 1.5 million people watching, and the revenue they would have generated off that would have been significant.
I don't know whether they have 1.5 million people watching. I don't know. I know he's got 1.5 million subscribers.
That match would go past 1.5 million views for sure. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen on the first day, but it'd happen.
It'd go past 1.5 million views, but it might not go past 1.5 million views if it cost a tenner to watch it.
No, but
that's true.
You can make a pay-per-view, like we said before. You can easily make a pay-per-view for.
You make a live.
You can, but the video will be attached to the two, won't they? You know, if you put it as a $5 pay-per-view, as a $10 pay-per-view, the number of views will be intrinsically linked to the cost of that.
But two products, Neil. You've got the live pay-per-view, and then you've got 36 hours later the posted match. The posted match that's free is going to be the one that goes to 2 million views, but you're still going to get the $100,000 in pay-per-view from the live event. You're gonna do both, and that could have been done on Larry's channel right there.
I don't think that there's question at all that either league or both leagues combined could have made money and made it happen. I think the thing that I'm still kind of hung up on is the response by Igor, because it didn't seem like a money thing. It seemed more like a principle thing, which in a way I understand, but I still think like when it comes down to like. You have this opportunity to see a match that I think everybody wants to see. And I get the principle behind what Igor is trying to create and I admire it, but then there's also like, we're in a year of stagnation. This is a great opportunity to give us something that we want to see and maybe make some money and take a step forward. And, that to me was my frustration after reading all that in the translation.
Yeah, because there's a number. This is no ordinary year for anyone. I mean, like I said at the start of this piece, the sort of force majeure element. If ever we've seen a clear and present example of exactly what that relates to, this is probably it. Yeah. Where how many times are going to arm wrestle this year? And if the PAL contract, I'm sure with Lavan will have said, okay, you're going to compete in these rounds of the top 8, and you will get an amount of money for each time you compete. And if you win the top 8. You get the $50,000 prize money, whatever that may be. And I have no doubt whatsoever that when Igor and Lavan entered into that contract, that both men, Lavan as well as Igor, both felt that would happen. This is what's going to happen. And had there not been COVID-19, I'm sure it would have done. I don't think for 1 minute that Igor would not have run those events and that Lavan wouldn't have been paid. The downside of the whole situation is that with the best intention in the world, PAL couldn't put on those events because it is literally impossible to do so. So it's a very, very grey area, isn't it? It's like who's right, who's wrong. If you can't throw stones at the PAL for not doing events. Bloody hell, they haven't. It's not been possible. If they put on the event, they can't fly the athletes in half the time. So
that's it. Right, it's very grey.
It's the fine print.
Yeah, it's the like, okay, we understand there was a contract in place and this global pandemic happened that everybody's dealing with at their job, with their family, and we understand like what's going on, and that in a way kind of nullifies what was on that contract that is, promised to the athlete. But in the inverse is like, okay, well, if the athlete is now in that same pandemic situation and has an opportunity to do something really cool to promote themselves, their brand, maybe make some money, it's very questionable to restrict them, but like blatantly say, no, this will not happen. But yet there's no way, based on the current situation of the globe, to allow them to do anything for themselves. So that's where it becomes kind of precarious when you listen to the explanation. It's like, okay, well, we know that, you know, the league is getting screwed over by the situation, but now it's on us, like, you know, the year of content. Everybody's going out and doing stuff and trying to find stuff to keep their sanity. To take that same contract or the same league restrictions and apply them during this pandemic is also kind of questionable.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when things do come up for air, whether any contracts that are agreed with people have things like that in. Yeah. So they will say, you know, in the event of a global pandemic where I'm not able to provide any arm wrestling matches, then the agreements within the contract are effectively on hold on the shelf. And it kind of has to, right?
It kind of has to. It, like, moving forward, everything in our life kind of has to be built around the preparedness for situations like this now. And I think it's got everybody like hyper aware.
Oh my God.
Based on losing 12 months of our lives. You know, now, you know, we're, you know, looking at a contract, because I'm in the same boat, like with the WAL, I got a contract, and I didn't even, I largely didn't read the fine print. I was like, wait, this is the coolest thing ever. Let me just sign it. You know what I mean? So, like, now you're kind of hyper aware, moving forward, what happens if the league stagnates? And
I was thinking about this quite a lot the other day. The other point to make on that was, I mean, I've spoken about this quite a bit on future broadcasts. The one thing that, you know, and people can say, oh, Neil be biased with the WAL and so on. Let me just make one point really clear, though. And this is unbiased. This is just a fact. Nobody's actually been blocked by the WAL from competing yet that I'm aware of. Can anybody correct me on that? Because I'm not aware of anybody that's been blocked from competing.
IFA
Michael
related.
Todd's competed. Todd Zilla's competed. Justin Bishop's competed. Matt Mass competed. And more. You know what I mean? A lot of pullers have competed. So I'm not sure that anybody's been blocked yet. But
I know that in the background, I've been told, like, because I'm someone
Ryan,
that's...
you closed up again, mate. Just go again, Ryan. Yeah, you're back, mate. Apologies.
No, that's cool. I know that I've been told by the WAL when I've been in seasons where I was coming to the USA to promote matches and stuff like that on just my own little venture. I've kind of been told, here's the criteria of matches you can ask for, and here's the criteria of matches you can't ask for. So I never asked for the matches that I knew I couldn't have, because they were involving WAL athletes, and especially once I became a WA athlete, there are certain blocks and restrictions on there for sure, and you're aware that if you want a WAL athlete, you have to jump through certain hoops to make it possible.
Were there reasonable requests, Ryan?
Yeah, reasonable. Yeah, for sure.
Now, if you'd have said to the WAL, right, I want to pull this PAL guy, would they have blocked you?
No, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for show 50.
No, it's kind of an interesting one, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's that, you know, it's nice to get some of the myth and legend out there. Because Ryan, you are a WAL athlete. Paul, you're a WAL athlete. I'm not a WAL athlete. I present for them, do other stuff, but I don't compete for them, so I've not got a restrictive arm wrestling contract. But I wanted to ask you two guys of that because I wasn't aware of anybody. Nobody's called me and said, "Oh, Neil, can you give us a lift with this with WAL because they've just blocked me from pulling this." I've never had that.
There is some. I know Sean Hancock, who's kind of partnered up with the PAL and IFA now and IRPA and everything else that they're doing. He hosts Mississippi State and some big tournaments down south, and he's reached out for some WAL athletes that were not approved.
But he was a PAL tournament.
Yes,
affiliate. Well,
associated.
No, I understand. If the WL came in and said, "Okay, we want to use Lavan, Vitali, and Prudnik," of course the PAL are going to be like, "Whoa, sweet child of mine," and for obvious reasons.
I wonder though if that might have anything to do with the climate that was recently expressed by Igor as far as the perspective on the WL as of late. And I don't know, maybe I might be reaching, but I know Sean and Igor, you know, Sean's kind of like Igor's representative in this country. And I think that got a little weird, when Sean was requesting folks and communicating with WAL. So I don't know. I mean, I could be totally reaching, but from the inside, I know that there was communication there. And I wonder, I mean, I guess Ray would be the only one to find out by calling Igor and talking to him, but that, I can't help but think in my conspiracy theory head that there might be something going on there as far as the associated climate.
Well, you know what, I'd like, just on that point, I'd love to get Igor and Kerrill on the show.
Right.
And just speak to them both, because, you know, they're pretty open lads. I'm sure they'll be, you know, and they'll probably, like Ray said earlier on, they're not the big bad wolf.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if all the perspectives are wrong. You know what I mean? And the whole perspective is totally different. You know, it's just kind of how it came off in the translation.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because, I mean, Ray, you've got a better perspective on the translation, the whole translation thing, and you've definitely got that because you've actually spoken to Igor. You know? Oh, God, he's just locked up on me again. Show 50. I had such high aspirations for Show 50, and it's turned out that Show 50 is locked up more than any show in the history.
Not
you
for
missed
us.
it before, Neil. We were saying it's every time we talk about Igor, it locks up. So he's sending in the hackers.
I blame the leagues. The leagues. This podcast blocking me. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, it's a difficult one. The whole Lavan and Michael match, I feel like, is only warming up yet.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a scenario which is going to play out one way or another.
Yeah, the worst thing about it is, right, like, Igor gets on and says, hey, guys, this will not happen. And for like 3 seconds on the internet, people gave it up and said, oh, Igor said no. And then, like, fast forward one day later, and everybody's talking about it even more now. So it's like, I don't think that the fans are going to relinquish their fixation on this match. Like, it's honestly almost like the denial of it is making it more of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, it has to happen now.
Yeah. Well, you know,
it's
all about timing. It's all about timing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, are we in the same situation? At what point do any of the promotions start having conversations with their athletes and saying, okay, you know what, it's looking like we're not going to be able to do anything for the rest of this year. Therefore, because of the fact we're not able to do anything for the rest of this year, we're going to have to amend a few things within the agreement, and there's a degree of ability for you guys to go out and pull in other scenarios. I don't know. When does that kind of thing take place? And it was at this point that I realised that all of that, you were all frozen up. Did you hear a goddamn thing I said?
We heard you.
We heard it.
I love it. Okay. You looked very attentive on my screen, all of you. Just like that for ages. And as you are now, Ray's midpoint.
The thing about it is,
and if this is coming through on the record, guys, that'll be great because you'll understand what I'm talking about. If, however, when the recording comes out, all of these guys look like they're not frozen, I am going to feel like an absolute...
We're not frozen. It's just Neil.
Guys, episode 50 happening again next week.
I kind of feel like we need to do show 50B.
Yeah.
A side and B side, yeah.
Yeah, freaking A side and B side. This was what happened when we did. I knew it was screwed when Ryan gave away the show 50 build-up straight away. I thought, oh God, it's gone south already. We haven't even got started yet. We're in the precursor bit.
I'm the only one who dressed up like a woo-woo.
Holy Christ, he is as well. He's come in as Hellraiser, right?
Yeah, right. Ryan told us, and no one came.
Oh, all right. I did come as John Brzenk, so it's all right.
That's the John Brzenk, is it?
Yeah. These glasses are...
That's Paul Linn.
Wait a minute, you've come as John Brzenk. That's it. That was your disguise. Yeah. Well, in that case, I've come as Sarah Bachman, you bastard. You know what I mean? Holy Christ.
Yeah, COVID hasn't been good to Sarah.
No, of course it.
Yeah, she's never looked rougher.
Oh, no.
Yeah, next week, ladies and gentlemen, I will be back as Nancy Locke. Now, second issue I've got, lads. We're 30 minutes into this second part of Show 50. I have no idea how long we were on the first part of Show 50 for.
Hour. We're already hour in.
We're an hour in. Hour and 7 minutes.
Oh.
Hour and 10 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to mention very quickly our sponsor for the fix. As always, this show is brought to you, show 50, exclusively by Western Survivor Beef Jerky, mother fluffers. The finest beef jerky in the world. And remember, www.westernsurvivor.ca, and you too can have as much spicy sausage as you can handle. We had so much to discuss in show 50 that we haven't got round to. We got quite emotional there. We got quite. I feel like we all committed quite a bit in there, and I feel like also show 51 we'll be doing shortly, so that won't have it in there. But I feel like show 52, this subject might come back quite hard. You know, I don't think this is over yet. So show 51 will be probably a bit chilled out by comparison to this. We'll address a couple of fan questions, and we'll talk about other things that have gone on in the sport that are far more relaxed and light-hearted. Yes. But if you've enjoyed show 50, ladies and gentlemen, and you've got anything to say on what we've talked about, please put your comments. Yeah, I'm a little scared about that as well, Ray. Put your comments down.
That's John Percent, come on. Yeah.
Put your comments down below, ladies and gents, and we will get to them, and we'll pick them up in probably show 52. There he is, the Razor. So, ladies and gents, before we wrap it up, I just want to say a massive thanks to all my resident guests on this. Remember, links in the description to where you can find and see more of these lads. We've got Paul Linn, the White Hulk of Lethal Arms Apparel. We've got the voice of arm wrestling, Ollie Rice. There it is. You've got some major issue with that arm there, son, but we'll not talk.
Yeah, it looked like you lost your hand or something.
Yeah. Yeah, quite weird there. Freaked me out a little bit. Yeah. No, it's back. You're looking, I don't know what you're doing there. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, if you were looking at the bottom corner of your screen there and thinking, oh, John Brazink's over at Ryan's place. No. It is, in fact, Ryan Blue Bowen, ladies and gentlemen, the PAL and WAL, the man you can always rely on to piss off the entire world. How long have we got before we do show 51? About, 5 minutes while we all get a brew? And I'm sure that in that period of time, Ryan will have managed to piss somebody else off. Until we see you next time, here on the Supernatural Strength channel, take it easy, peeps.
What grabs your eyes on that, if anything?